we need to do some follow-up about my latest video, that is the how to capture analog video easily with great quality, because the comments have gotten to me, and I need to address some of them because yikes. I felt kind of bad because the t-shirt I was wearing, and indeed the shirt I'm wearing right now, were designed by someone who reached out to me on Twitter at first with this design, and I bought one right away from TeePublic, but the quality of the prints from TeePublic were really bad, so he moved them to Redbubble. I ordered them again, and these are really great quality, so there's a link right up near the top, both in the description and in a comment I pinned. Hopefully it's in at least one of those two places if you want to check out where to get that shirt, because it's really great, both the Shadow Mask one as well as the Trinitron one. But I have my phone here with some notes because I actually took notes about what I want to talk about. You should be proud of me, because usually the videos on this channel just drone on. And it may still, but I'm hoping that this keeps my head on straight. So let's move on to following up to the last video. Firstly, many people in the comment section, hopefully not the audience at large, but in the comment section, appear to have a misunderstanding of the scope of that video. The purpose of making this video was that I got tired of dealing with all of the crap you go through to get a decent analog capture, and tried out this method, and it is just a plug-and-play method that works really well and produces better results than anything I have personally tried. So the scope of this video was, are you looking for an easy way to capture analog video that is also really high quality? Here's how to do it. So for those of you that have moved into the comments and are talking about why I should be using FFmpeg because that's more convenient than the methods that I use, or why I should be using a different scaler, or why I should be using such and such and such a thing, the whole point is you are the kind of person that I got tired of wading through, looking online with forums and figuring out what is actually the best. So I finally came up with a solution that, to me anyway, is really, really easy, and I'm sure whatever methods you use are the ones you prefer and you're going to preach about those, but let's be honest here, the whole point of the video was this is an easy way to make analog video captures that look really good. You don't have to mess about with the deinterlacing algorithm. In fact, I put that in the script because, again, I got tired of looking at all the people recommending QTMGC or whatever it is, because now I have something that works really well and I don't have to fuss with it. End of story. So that was the point of me sharing this method with you, was that it's straightforward, doesn't require any weird software, and it just works. And it works really, really well. Now, you may argue with me that expecting people to use video editing software to piece together the clips and rescale them is just as bad as you expecting me to use FFmpeg to do those sorts of things. But I will say that I am not a developer. I can't really do developer type things. I know almost no coding at all other than playing about with an Arduino for a while. So whenever someone recommends a tool to me like FFmpeg, it goes right over my head and I'm going to ignore you. So sorry to be blunt, but that's where we're at. Secondly, I do regret saying when quality matters above all else, because of course, you can go down as far as you want to improve quality, but to my eyes, this method has the best quality of anything I've seen. And sure, you probably have better methods out there, but either the process of moving them onto a platform like YouTube just wrecks that process, or else your particular measure of quality is very different to mine, because what I'm looking for is, does this file look like how I first of all remember it looking from watching these videos when I was younger on a real CRT, and also just looking on my TV, like a normal TV, modern TV now. When I said that a lot of video captures that I see look washed out, I mean that. And if you look at some, like the clip I showed of the ducks and the trees, that's not how real life looks. Real life is not that washed out. So I saw someone on Reddit say that they would prefer the washed out color because that's what real analog video is. And to me, it's like, I don't remember real analog video failing to capture color realistically. From my childhood, I grew up at the tail end of VHS and at the beginning of DVD, and all of my old movies are on VHS, and all of my old like old kids things like Winnie the Pooh and all that is on VHS, and that was very colorful and vibrant. So the idea that analog video is supposed to be washed out is, to me, kind of absurd. I think it's just a lot of capture methods are bad, and if what you're seeing is what's coming through your capture card, of course it's going to look washed out on your computer because that's what your capture card sees. And as far as I'm concerned, the HDMI upscaler just does a much more faithful job of reproducing those sorts of things. The reason, I think I got a little off track, the reason why I regret saying when quality matters above all else is because, one, that doesn't square with me admitting that there are better devices to capture this stuff with, and two, though the method isn't perfect, again, going back to what I said, it presents a 99% accurate depiction of real analog video in a digital space as I remember analog video looking. And that was my goal. So then that brings up the next point, and that is rabbit holes. You can go down as deep as you want down the analog video capturing rabbit hole, but I am flippin' tired of that. Again, why this is now the solution I use. Talking about what capture devices are the best, what deinterlacing algorithms are the best, what chroma subsampling is the best, all that is just meaningless noise to me. I just want something that works, looks good, and will faithfully, well, looks good covers that, but just works and looks good and looks correct, I would say. So that's it. I don't want to then say, well, could I get slightly better results by doing this? Could I do slightly better results by doing that? I don't want to spend the time and effort, both literally and mentally, to go through these sorts of things. And there comes a point when you're looking through all these forum posts and looking through all these different things where you just say, I'm tired of anguishing over, am I doing this the best way possible? I just want to do it. So again, I regret saying when quality matters over all else, because I'm sure you can find better ways to do this, but I'm tired of going down the rabbit hole, and that's the reason why I'm settled on the method that I'm settled on now. Which leads me to the reason why I'm making this follow-up video is because a number of commenters had asked why I was capturing it over Composite when I could be capturing it over S-Video, and at least one other person even mentioned Component. So, this almost hurt my brain a little bit because this is ridiculous. Now, there is a tiny bit of merit to suggesting to use S-Video over Composite, but this ignores the fact that 95% of the people in the audience watching this video do not have a VHS VCR capable of outputting to S-Video. The vast majority of them are going to have Composite only, unless it's an SVHS VCR or some, there are definitely some normal VHS VCRs that have S-Video. I have one of them, but they are extremely rare in the grand scheme of things. So first of all, saying why didn't you capture over S-Video suggests to me that you don't even understand the scope of how much S-Video or where S-Video is in the analog video space, because VHS, it is rarely used, it is almost always Composite. Now, where you might get a benefit from using S-Video comes from the fact that VHS tapes do not actually store Composite video. They store, in a way, separate, the chroma signal is separate from the luminance signal. So I made a video on basically how Composite video works. I will put a card up there. What we did when we went from black and white to color television is we used quadrature amplitude modulation, that's that weird complicated math, to derive a color signal from tiny modulations in the luminance signal. And what that causes is it causes a phenomenon known as dot crawl or color dots, because you actually see that wiggling that's been done of the luminance signal, and it can be visible. Now, VHS and Betamax and pretty much all the analog video formats, certainly the consumer ones, don't have the bandwidth to accurately create an NTSC signal. So, or PAL signal. So what they do is they create a lower resolution luminance signal, which is basically not, it's compliant with NTSC, but it would not be compliant with color because it doesn't have enough bandwidth. So it creates a lower bandwidth black and white image and a really, really low bandwidth color image, like I'm talking 10% of the bandwidth or the resolution of the black and white image. And it basically sploops that on top of the black and white image and feeds that to your TV. So on the tape, there's a already pretty mediocre black and white image, and then separately encoded in what's called color under, a really awful color image. It's like, and it's unfair to call it an image because it's color information, but the resolution is just so awful. Our eyes can't really see this because our eyes are really awful at seeing color. We see more detail and brightness than we do in color. And these signals are then combined and fed out to your TV as composite video. So all VCRs are essentially taking a signal that does not work. It's not valid color for your TV, and it has to translate that into a way that your TV can see. And this is like we're talking from the 70s technology here. So what S-Video can do with VHS is it can send the luminance signal as is to your TV and the chrominance signal as is to your TV, and let your TV combine them rather than using Composite to do that quadrature amplitude modulation and introducing the dot crawl. So fine, I admit that that may in fact be possible, but again, we're talking about 5% of VCRs maybe out there that even have this capability. But the other thing is, if you have a good comb filter, you can pretty much eliminate dot crawl. And I don't want to get into specifics too much because already I can tell this is going to be longer than I thought it was going to be. But a comb filter will remove those dot crawl artifacts almost entirely. And in fact, the comb filter on my capture or the HDMI converter is really, really good. Laserdiscs are known for having just really bad dot crawl, and I don't know why in particular Laserdiscs do, but they're known for having just pretty bad dot crawl. And in fact, the new TV that got me thinking about this doesn't show Laserdiscs that well. The one thing that the HDMI converter does much better than the TV itself does is get rid of that dot crawl. Because if you look at this picture from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you can see there's almost like a film-like grain to it, and that's mainly an artifact of all the dot crawl. Let me know if I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that is dot crawl. It's definitely part of the analog signal. It's not real film grain. And the HDMI converter, if you look at it side by side, I don't know if I have the same exact frames handy, but the HDMI converter gets rid of that so well, and it creates a much smoother image, and it just looks so much better than what the TV can do.
But it's the only way if you want it just right.
All this to say that, yes, S-Video, you could use that if you have the chance, but if you have a good composite processing and you have a good comb filter on there, the benefits you might get are so marginal that I don't even think it's worth any mental energy over. If you're concerned that you might not get the maximum quality because you didn't use S-Video, then you're ignoring that 95% of the population has never even seen an S-Video image from a VHS tape. And you're also splitting hairs, like really massively splitting hairs. The sentence that I wrote to finish this up was, in short, it's splitting hairs, especially because it's outside the realm of possibility for the vast majority of people watching this video. If they have a VCR and they have some VHS tapes that they want to convert over to digital, they probably don't have a VCR which can output S-Video anyway. So the suggestion that I'm missing out on something by not using S-Video is a little outlandish, kind of pedantic, splitting hairs, and that's how I feel about that. So the last thing that I want to discuss before I close this video out is the actual flaw in the method that I'm using, and that is black crushing. Now it's, in my opinion, rather minor, and I'm going to move this discussion over to screen capturing so we can talk about it and actually show you what it is. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is black crush, which is happening a little bit with this capture method, and I just want to acknowledge it and also explain why I think it is almost entirely it's not bad enough to be concerned about. So this is the Premiere project that was in the direct video, so I'm showing frames that were in the video itself. First of all, if you compare the framed picture of Mickey Mouse and Pluto in the old method and the new method, this, by the way, is my brother's childhood bedroom, so fun fact for you there. The picture just looks so much better in the new method. The contrast is improved. It is actually like, it just looks good. This looks very flat, kind of washed out. Like I said, it's just what captures tend to look like. The colors are more vibrant, the actual image itself looks more real, and just in general, this is a more pleasant picture. But indeed, the black levels are being crushed, meaning that there is some detail in the blacks that you are losing. So if you look here at this, I guess, Easter basket thing, maybe, you can see far more detail inside the basket on the old method than you can on the new method. Let me move back and forth a few frames here. By the way, I meant to bring this up. Premiere does not handle the interlaced footage. Playing in Premiere, it just does not look, it just does not handle that as well. But anyway, so still frames, it appears to only show one field at a time, so the still frames are always going to look worse. But anyway, I was going to point out, if you look at the bottom of whatever this is, I was going to say an Etch-a-Sketch, but I don't think it is an Etch-a-Sketch. Definitely, like, there's almost no detail right here, whereas you can see a little more detail in this area. But what I was going to do is, what I will do is I'm going to turn in Lumetri Color the shadows all the way up on both of these. So this is, I'm going to turn the shadows all the way up on the original one. Okay, so that's pulling out all the detail. Really, it's overblowing the shadows. Now I'm going to do it on the new method. And now we'll be able to see exactly what details are truly being lost. Because, excuse me, if there was any detail in the blacks, it would be visible now, and pretty much only things that are truly black will still be black if you pull the shadows all the way up. There is a metric called blacks, but that really just changes the black level. So that's not as good of a thing to compare. So anyway, so now with the shadows all the way up, you can definitely see that there are some things that you do lose. For instance, this looks completely black, whereas here it is a little green. But I would argue that there's very little detail here anyway. Like, I don't even know if that would, be worthy of preserving. Here in the left of the Geo Safari, there's more detail that you can see here, but again, it's really, really marginal. And now I've moved on to the parade footage. This is, by the way, the Tapestry of Nations parade, a short-lived parade at Epcot that was started for the Millennium Celebration and only lasted a few years because these puppets, from what I have heard, the puppets were very dangerous in high winds, which in retrospect is kind of obvious, but anyway. So the difference here between the old method and new method, and I'm sure this is where people saw the most black crush, is there are a lot of really dark details around here in the trees that you just can't really see with the new method. Now, I would argue that this looks, I will still argue that this looks better overall. Perhaps it's not great to be losing that detail in the shadows, but I would still prefer seeing this image than this one. Remember, this one looks unfairly bad because this is only showing one of the fields, whereas the deinterlace, like this is one field. Premiere does not try to deinterlace it, and this is both fields as deinterlaced in the algorithm of the converter box thing. One thing I will point out, which I noticed, which is really interesting, and I don't know if this is just Premiere being weird, but if I move one frame forward, you can see on the left side, it repeats motion Do you see how every other frame appears to be the same? It's just there's some noise that changes in the lines. Whereas on the right-hand side, each new frame is completely new. And in fact, see, that flash was missing. And this is genuinely interesting to me. That flash is missing on the left-hand side. We only see this flash. These aren't perfectly synchronized, but there should be two flashes. We only see the one. So I don't know if my old method of capturing was actually missing fields, or if this is just Premiere not showing things well. I guess I should look at the rendered file. Hang on, we'll do that. What time is this, 2:31? This is a really janky way of doing this, but it should work. Why not just put the output and put the rendered file on top of everything else and then blow it up? Why not indeed? So I am curious here. Yeah, okay. So that's interesting. It came out in the render, that flash there. So it definitely was there. So I guess Premiere just really stinks at showing a preview with interlaced video, because there is movement now with each new frame. Okay, I don't know what we learned there, but we learned something. But anyway, let's mute this. Okay, so they do look virtually identical. That's good. All right, so going back to the trees. So in the original footage, you can actually see more detail here in the trees than you can over here. So what I'm gonna do again is I'm gonna blow the shadows all the way up. So I'm gonna do the original capture method. All right, and now I'm gonna do the new capture method. So now you can definitely see that we do see much of this detail, but what is there is barely there. There's barely anything there. So definitely I will agree that the black crush is much worse on the new method, but I really, personally, I think that there's very few scenarios where that's really going to matter, and the overall image quality boost is just, it's worth it. Now I want to go back to the output file as it was rendered, because these stills will be fair comparison, because I did want to point out, and I didn't point this out in the video, if you look at like his pants here, this is so much sharper with the new method. It is almost amazing. Now, is that just contrast enhancing? I guess that could be it, but there's a lot of finer detail. Just even on the front of his costume, this is just so much clearer than the original capture method. So not even talking about the brighter colors and the better fidelity and the lower noise, but just these textures here are much better. So again, yeah, there's black crush. Let me, in this frame, oh no, okay, so I still have all the shadows all the way up. Wait, no. Hang on. There we go. Now the shadows are all the way up. So like here, you know, there's a little more detail here, like this umbrella thing. Let me back up and see if we can see more of that. While here. I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to tell. There's definitely, like, you can see something here that you can't see over here. But it's very, to me, I just think this is hardly worth fussing over. If, you know, if I wanted to, what I could do is I could render all of these with the shadows boosted to 100, but I don't know how that looks for other things. So how about we find out? Where's some other stuff? So let's boost the shadows up. That's better, but it does bring out some of the pixelation in her legs here. It's less visible without the shadows blown up. This was a very Epcot heavy video, and those of you that picked up on it, good job. One little spark. So just looking at this frame, it doesn't really bring up much detail. In fact, I'd say overall it makes it worse because it makes the compression more visible. And this is why so much of this is so frustrating to split hairs over, because it's all everything depends on the scene, the specific thing you've captured, and trying to get everything exactly perfect. I really think you just waste time trying to pursue that. But let's look at this shot again. This shot, bumping up the shadows just makes it much brighter. There's not a lot of extra detail it's making visible. And so again, this just reiterates the point of it's highly dependent on whatever it is that you're looking at. Let's go back into here. That's the shadows boosted all the way, not boosted. This one, the benefits of boosting the shadows are a little more clear because you can see more information. These, by the way, I'm pretty sure are laser discs. I'm delighted by that. But this one here does benefit from boosting the shadows, and they're really, except for like right here, it's really hard to see any sort of compression artifacts from doing it. So again, it all depends on what is the capture, what exactly are we looking at. So yeah, there is black crush going on. I don't think it's that major, but I did want to throw it in here to show you exactly what that is, what that phenomenon looks like, and what you might be missing out on. I think you're missing out on almost nothing, to be frank, and I, honest to goodness, would rather footage look like this. Oops, I was about to adjust the wrong thing. Then look like this, because this looks more washed out to me. And granted, I could do much more fine tuning than just playing with the shadows metric and Lumetri color, but like I said, it's splitting hairs, and I think that's going to be the best way to put that. Lastly, the one thing I wanted to talk about was I did try running the audio separately into the capture device, and it did not make the audio level any better. So somebody in the comments suggested that I do that, even though that was exactly what I was saying I was going to try. I have now tried it. It does not improve things. So that's it. Thanks for watching this follow-up video. I hope it made sense. If some of you don't like my take on this, you know what? That's fine, because we have a difference of opinion. And like I said, the captures that I get from those two devices are so good that there is no reason I would want to spend more energy perfecting it. Could I make my post-production process a little more efficient? Perhaps, but I'm happy doing it as I'm doing it, and you trying to convince me that I shouldn't be happy is one of the most frustrating things the internet does. Don't be a frustrating internet person. Let people like what they like. Toodles!